I hope you can hear me with all my fans going on. It's just too hot to not have them. The oak crotch piece I got from Richard, the gentleman who sold me the bandsaw. I just went outside and whacked off the more rotteny looking portion with the chainsaw, and I was going to put a faceplate on, but for some reason I cannot find my Forstner bit that is as big as my faceplate to help this sink in flat. And I ran out of my long screws. These are the short ones. So there's a lot of looseness in this surface area, and I'd rather be able to get down there deep. So my next option is my wormwood screw. I know my wormwood screw does not go in there any deeper than what these screws would, but this is a smaller, flatter surface. If it starts to loosen up on me as I'm turning it, I can always try to do my spur drive, or move on through the mounting methods and see which one works best. I already drilled a hole for my wormwood screw, and I poured some super glue, CA glue, inside, so that way it will help, hopefully, just stiffen up those fibers a little bit. It's pretty soft in some areas, some cracks. I love these like squirrely Gouges in here, whatever you want to call them. So I'm hoping this crotch piece will have some nice figure and be worth probably the trouble it's going to give me. You can see here some cracks running all the way through it. And obviously it's been spalting. It's got a lot of mold, and you see the spalted layer here. Make sure you turn spalted stuff with a mask. Those are fungus spores, and that getting into your lungs is not going to do any favors. So
This piece had a lot of cracks in it to begin with and bug holes. So I knew that there would be some design opportunities as far as filling it with, you know, epoxy or what have you. So I had a subscriber who wrote to me saying that he uses CA glue and baking soda to fill some cracks in some projects that he makes. Thank you for the idea, Rob. So I mixed some silver coloring with some baking soda, CA glue, just to keep, to kind of do a fill without having to fill it so much with CA. And it seemed to work really well. And it did dry, the CA glue dried pretty fast because of reaction with baking soda. Didn't smoke or anything, at least not for me, it didn't. I'm just using a Harbor Freight super glue. It was only $3.99 for that larger size bottle, so I figured to give it a try, and it works pretty good. So I'm going through and filling these spots. Now, I did do this before on another bowl in punky areas where I'm right now. I'm just trying to get those punky areas filled. And the lighter the wood, the more this particular method will be harder to get off, I should say, because it does, that baking soda does go in there. So it did help. I figured I would do that before I turn it around and reshape it, because I was going to have to cut all that away anyway. Some of this wood was borderline mushy in some areas, so just trying to chisel away as much as I possibly can that is not usable, and then try to salvage some of that spalting, because most of the spalting was just borderline rot. So going into this, I don't really, like I said, I don't really have big plans for a certain shape. It's more of like, well, the worst that I could do is just make a plain basic bowl. And so I try to utilize the wood and what it's doing and the grain and things like that to come up with ideas. And I tend to here lately have been going towards this particular shape that this ended up with, and I guess it's just because the woods that I'm using are giving me the opportunity to do that. This is the baking soda method again, where that crotch piece came together. That is pretty deep all the way through the piece. So I just continue to fill it, fill it, fill it as I cut, and see what happens. But I think in the end I had to put a little bit of epoxy in that crack, but mostly the holes that I end up having in the very top from all the wormholes and the spalting and stuff. The mosquitoes were eating me up, so that's why I keep smacking my legs. So I'm just putting super glue in the punky areas and some really small hairline cracks that I'm seeing that's showing up. The super glue helps to stiffen those fibers. Sometimes I'll go over it with a lacquer and lacquer thinner and put several coats, and if I'm going to leave it overnight, normally that's what I'll do, and that usually helps to stiffen up. You can also use polyurethane if you have any. Soak the piece really good with it and just let it sit overnight or several days if you like, and that will work as well. Now I have some holes and bug poo holes, I call it, to Dremel out with my Dremel, so I have something to put epoxy. This is kind of still too moist for me to have attempted to put even the 5-minute epoxy in there. I figured it possibly dry out, quick enough, but it was just really rotten. So I did here fill it, use that same silver black coloring, and put it all on the rim. In some areas it stuck and stayed, and mostly in the punky areas it didn't. Like after it dried, I could just pull them right out. So I knew that that wasn't going to work, and I was afraid that I was just going to keep dumping epoxy in these holes and it was just going to come out. I later decided, because I did want a rim, I did really want to have a nice rim on the piece. You'll see what I came up with here shortly. It's all just rolling out. You can see some of it already just came out while I was scraping it. So I was like, well, I'll get off what I can from the inside and go from there. At this point, you're just like, while you're cutting, you're mowing through your head, what to do. So I'm picking out the holes and I'm just looking at it and I'm thinking what to do, what to do, what to do. What can I do to stiffen this up and make a nice rim? So a friend of mine, Donny, he makes martial arts equipment. And so he has a lot of woods that he buys that he has scraps left over that he doesn't use. So he gave me a bunch of this wood, and this is zebra wood. So I cut my rim down, cut away a lot of the rot, because the rot was really located in that top part of that rim. Got it as flat as I possibly could, and cut the zebra wood into two strips and glued it on the rim. And I felt that wood would look really good with the spalting and, all the stripes and things like that going in the oak already. So it turned out pretty good. This project sat on my lathe for like 2 days with the rim glued on it. So as it dried out, it started to move. So the cracks that were already there just got bigger. So I refilled those with the epoxy, and of course all around the rim where a lot of the bug holes were. And this time they stayed. Yay! So here I'm just scraping down all of the epoxy, getting everything nice and smooth. It did move on me while it was drying, so I'm kind of like having to go through and reshape it as well. But that's fine. I did leave enough material on the inside when I hollowed it to where, I could get it down without having to worry about going through the piece. And that's just something I kept in mind while I was hollowing it out because of the rot. You want to make sure you don't go too thin, because especially in a spalted piece, because it's already got weak points in it. And so I kind of just naturally go towards leaving those kind of pieces a little on the thicker side because of that. It may or may not be the proper or right way to do it. It's just, in my mind, it makes sense. So that's why I do it. I don't have any other technical better reason. So now I'm just going through all of the grits. I had to do 80 for quite a bit because of, the spalting and everything on the inside. And I did put lacquer and lacquer thinner on this and let it sit for about 20 minutes while I went and ate lunch to help stiffen up some of those fibers. And that seemed to work really well because the sanding didn't take as long as I thought it would. On this, you'll see there's like this little spongy thing in my hand on top of my sanding pads that I use for my sander. What I do is those makeup pads, women, you know what I'm talking about, that you apply your foundation with. They're just little round makeup sponges. You can find them at Walmart. I think they're $1 for, I don't know, 10 or 15 of them. They work really well in keeping your fingers right off the sandpaper, for one, and going around all those curves without, being so harsh. So I'm putting the Axe sanding paste on, and I didn't show you, but I'm doing the restoring polish as well. So you put that on and then you just buff it off, and it really does leave a beautiful shine. And I could have left it at that point because it was beautiful. But I felt this piece needed a little bit more of a shine, so I decided to go with the OB Shine Juice like usual. So I'm just removing the nub and gonna sand the bottom all the way through the grits and put the same finishes on it. Burned my branding iron in it. My camera shut off before I got through the complete process, so I apologize about that.